Sounds like Scott's knees. Okay, while you're enjoying your great dessert, we're gonna get going because we've got a lot of good stuff. First, I'm gonna call on Jim, even though he's got his mouth full, ask him to tell us about the blind dinner date.
Hi, everyone. As I'm sure you've seen, emails go out, over the course of the past year. The blind dinner date is coming up. It's gonna be on, someone help me remember the name,
January 30th.
January 30th. Thanks, everyone. I really should know that. January 30th at Frederick Meyer Gardens. If you are interested in purchasing individual tickets, please let me know, reach out. We can get you a link to our Eventbrite. We're gonna try doing electronic registration for the individual tickets this year. A big thanks to everyone who is on the committee for the blind dinner date. We will have a special guest in Katie Lobby. If you'd like to learn more, please let me know, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The committee's done a great job. Let's try and have some great attendance so that we can raise some funds. So we can give it all away. Holiday shopping. And you've got a minute and a half.
First of all, thank you all you volunteers for signing up to be shoppers and wrappers. We have an overwhelming response. In fact, I was starting to panic because we were getting more volunteers and I hadn't confirmed all the kids yet, but I did that yesterday and we have at least 50 kids or more. So you will be getting in your email 2 days ahead a shopper detailed sheet of information. Some of you I will call or have asked you to come at 8:15 and to be bring your helpers as wrappers, and the rest of you, we would like you there at 7:30. So we're ready to go, and we'll all look forward to seeing you Saturday, December 2nd, 7:30 to 10:30. And those of you who I will call or will designate to come at 8:15, you get to sleep in.
So if anybody has read their new to Veritas, who hasn't read it the last issue? Okay, there's actually more of you that haven't read it. We have some changes, opportunities coming up in our foundation. And there's a great article in there about the foundation. So I know that even some of the foundation board members haven't read it yet. So I'm encouraging you to go back and read your new to Veritas that was last published and go through it.
Jeff tried here, you could explain it.
He asked me to do this. Jeff, do you want to say anything more about that?
No, the dude has got a great art. Read that, take your time. We're gonna talk at the holiday.
The holiday social, we're also going to have address the foundation, had a short presentation on that also. But if you haven't read the article, read it. It's very good. It's another great opportunity for the club. But it takes a lot longer to explain than just reading the article. So please go and do that. The timing on the foundation. The timing is when we're comfortable with it, we are going to make the addition. There's no deadline. We do have a deadline, though, that we are both sad about and looking for the new future, and that is this is our last meeting here. The press club will be closing, and we're very sad for that because we really enjoyed being here in the service. In a moment, we're going to have all the staff come in and we're going to give them a big thank you when they can fit that in. So they might come in at any moment. We're also going to make them a donation from the club in terms of a thank you to each one of them, because many of them are now having to find other jobs because this is not moving. They thought they were going to move over to where the Peninsula Club is, but that isn't feasible. So I'm going to ask Bob to come up here talk just a minute or so about, future plans.
Up so high. Good afternoon.
I can get you some phone bits.
Would you mind? Yeah. So Cheryl and I have been working on this for the last few weeks, when we knew it was final, here at the youth club. And we have basically come up with about 5 locations that are doable. There are some issues in terms of restrictions for either parking or the cost of parking. Or the menu items as well. Some of them, a couple of them do have on-site restaurants, and so there would be feasibility that if our numbers increased or decreased at the time of the meeting, we would be able to accommodate it. So at this point, as I said, we've got 5 viable locations that could fit us very easily. We are trying to stay within the Grand Rapids area, being the Grand Rapids Club. I do have some RFPs or requests for proposal sheets if anybody would like to look at one and has an idea. This is open to all discussion, more or less. And then we'll basically finalize it and come down to where the priorities lie in terms of the costs. Meeting room rental now we'll have to deal with, as well as possibly parking and so forth and so on. So Cheryl, I don't know if you want to add anything. We certainly appreciate everybody's suggestions so far, and keep them coming. The boss here would like to get things done within 2 weeks, so we're under the gun. Any questions?
Any suggestions?
If you have any, bring them up.
Yeah, and I've got update sheets and everything.
So our goal is, because of that, we will not be, because the club here closes on the 30th of November, next week. We will not be having any meetings in December. We normally have 2. The last one of the year is the raffle, the Christmas raffle, and that is being moved to the holiday social. And I'm gonna ask Rob to come up and talk about the holiday social.
You have to stand right here. The holiday
Come on, you gotta be on TV.
Recording me, I'm sorry.
Zoom, yeah.
Madam Secretary, I apologize.
The holiday social is Saturday, December 16th. It's gonna be at Wallenwood Country Club. We've had some, I think our annual meeting last year out there. It's free to members, $25 for your guests. It's gonna be a plated dinner. We are going to have the raffle, the traditional holiday raffle will be there in light of some of the changes here, but it'll also kind of juice up the party. So I hope all of you will come. Cheryl will be sending out an email with a menu selection, and obviously letting us know that you're coming so we can get that in as quickly as possible to the club. I want to thank my committee, which is Ann, Kim, Boyd is emeritus, and Cheryl has been wonderful to helping us.
And your wife.
Oh, my wife. Okay. So it's gonna be a good time, and I hope all of you will come, and Anna,
Did you solidify a time frame for the event?
well, say 6 o'clock, 6:30, somewhere around there, but it's gonna be a plated dinner, so it'll be nice, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. They've been working hard on it. It's gonna be a nice evening, and there'll be some other events going on beside, probably even in addition to the 12 days of Christmas. I'm sure. It's a great tradition. But the acting is the fun part. Any other committees that I've missed? Anybody have anything announcement wise before I let Jamie take over? Tail twister.
Hello, everybody. My page has great asked me money because they were not, didn't have any pins, and I accepted from other tables too. If you have more than your pin, please, wait $1 or 2 after yourself. You know, don't always, hand out a lot of fines, but been a couple actions today that I've noticed deserve a small fine. One being when Ann gets called up to get her keys, Gary says you might want to talk to the tail twister about that. And she just goes and sits down. You know, I mean, I think, yeah, and so, you know, I appreciate it, Dow, so. Also, I noticed that nobody had gotten up from their table to go eat, except one person. They're left the table behind. Everybody else, I think he was finished with the line and started eating before anybody got there. That might be Jeff.
Hold on, I'll give you the five, but I also have a happy buck to go with.
Okay.
Can I do
This
both?
is Happy Buck, yes, also. Okay.
Last Friday, I had a new granddaughter, Eleanor. 8 pounds, went out.
Apparently it made him hungry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Now, there was another find that I'm gonna need a little help with. You know, there were a group of us that went down to Jamaica. And a lot of things were packed up. And there was glasses that were going through, and my wife was going through a bag of glasses. And she found an unusual item. Now, Gary, you can pay your fine now. Or I can show him the item.
Okay, the fine.
One of those wagons.
We wrapped them around the glasses. I don't know what you were trying to do.
They're clean, I never got to wear them. Just making sure.
Yeah, they were, I think.
There you go.
I think I've also watched them many times.
Okay. Well, you're trying to hide some of these. At least it wasn't my Cheeto ones.
We also have, Happy Bucks, if, anybody has a Happy Buck. Okay,
I never did, I just got back from Florida again.
Oh.
My daughter from Colorado should be arriving about the time I get home after this. Yeah. For Thanksgiving, yeah.
Yeah, they go to, yeah.
Where the cash goes.
It, yeah, no, it's not true, but the Drew is. And it goes into our funds that I don't know specifically what these funds go to. I just collect the fines. I don't direct.
Maybe some people do it.
Yeah.
They might go to. Yeah.
There we go. Go to
Okay.
the party.
Okay, okay. Other Happy Bucks, yeah.
Since it's collected from. It doesn't have.
I think many of you know about, a couple of years ago, I had a little bout with cancer. I have both kidney cancer and prostate cancer, and had surgery for removal of both. And this morning at 9:30, I was declared cancer-free.
Cigar.
Yeah.
I think I will. Or two.
Okay.
I am happy to see all of these faces. It's been far too long. I apologize for not coming around, but I am super excited to be here and thanks for welcoming me with all the hugs.
Jacqueline, we introduce yourself because we have some new members that don't know you.
I'm Jacqueline Smart Parish. How long have I been on? I don't even know.
Over 15 years.
Yes, so it's a family dynamic, and we've always had a lion in our family, and so I am holding down the Grand Rapids Lion. So yeah, thanks for having me back and helping me.
Coming back.
I'll give a buck for Kim's cancer free.
All right, Debbie.
Oh,
Saturday went down to Oakland University, my granddaughter swam swimming and diving, she's a diver. She was 12th in the state.
Wow.
I've got some Happy Bucks also when I get home tonight or shortly thereafter. My son and his family will be with us for the weekend, you know, long trip, so. Could be fun having all the grandkids. Well, it'll be sort of fun. 15-month-old twins in our house that's not really babyfied at all. It's gonna be challenging, but worth it. Any other happy bucks? I can look around, we have guests.
Yes.
Tim.
Like introduce Brian Neal, he's a local judge just appointed to the 63rd District Court, 61st District Court in July, so he's just brand new to the area. Wow.
Thank you. Take all the cards if we don't have any other guests, then
Jimmy?
Yeah. The cards. Good for me. Okay. I haven't collected this much money in a long time. We should have, you know. That's all my stuff. Okay.
Put that in, I'll go get a number drawn, we'll go to the judge.
Okay.
It's always good to have a judge participate.
That's how you welcome in, you know?
First ticket wins $5.
6244555.
4455.
So it's Patrick. Okay, next one, you're looking for the white chip.
You get to pick this one. This one.
It's in here.
Nobody? Who was it?
Pen, come on.
I got him. Jamie, I got him.
You know, there's no cheating. There we go. Last three numbers are 446. That's. Oh,
Table over there.
Scott Brady. That was a lucky table. Pat Mullen and now Scott Brady.
He's won before. I don't think it's well.
You put the white one in?
Yes.
Traded.
I saw it.
Red.
Who's there?
That's built up from people not winning. Yeah. And red chip.
You get oohs and ahs. Or you get to root for that other team Saturday. Where's Mike Long when we need him? Thank you, Jamie. Again, any other announcements? And Shelley, I'll invite Shelley up here to introduce our great last program after press conference at the University Club. It used to be the press club.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Without further ado, Emily Cauzillo joins Mercantile Bank. We won't ask who's a customer or not, who wants to be a customer is better. Oh, there we go. Vice President, Director of Mercantile Community Partners, key, obviously making headlines. Emily has extensive experience structuring and underwriting complex real estate projects, utilizing various incentives. With over 10 years of commercial banking experience, Emily has originated and managed over $450 million of investment and tax credits. Emily will work closely with development partners to find the best solutions possible for their projects. The deep-seated passion for historic preservation and affordable housing, keyword. She currently serves as a board member of the Michigan Historic Preservation Network and as a finance committee member of the Dwelling Place. Come on up, Emily, and share your good words. Round of applause.
That's turned itself off there.
Oh, that's what that was.
Oh, that beep earlier.
Turned itself off. Come up here, good.
Am I talking? Oh, there it goes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. First time at the Lions Club. My name is Emily Cauzillo. I'm actually originally from the east side of the state, but moved to Grand Rapids in 2009. And I am one of those Grand Valley kids that never left after graduating. And fell into commercial banking, and I'm now at Mercantile Bank, started this year to lead their group called Mercantile Community Partners, which focuses on community development projects across the state of Michigan. Today I'm here to talk to you specifically about affordable housing. I'm sure many of you have read about it, seen it on the news, hear about projects all the time. But what I want to talk to you about today is, what does that really mean? What is affordable housing? Is it just a keyword? There's also other words like workforce housing or missing middle housing. There's just a lot of vernacular out there. So I just wanted to dive in with you guys to get a better understanding of what is affordable housing. First, let's start with a brief history of affordable housing. I won't read through everyone, but just some key dates here. 1934 is when Federal Housing Administration was created after the Great Depression. We saw a lot of growth for the need for public housing, which you'll often hear is that term as well. In 1965 is really when you start seeing the momentum of the war on poverty and HUD being established, which is the Housing for Urban Development. That is the federal entity that does a lot of this programming and grants for these types of housing projects. Again, in 1974 is when we started hearing the term Section 8 housing. It's often confused with public housing. Again, just some more words to focus on. And then finally in 1986, which is really the last time we had a significant federal program update as it relates to affordable housing, is when they created the low-income housing tax credit, which is a mouthful, LIHTC for short. And we're going to dig into that a little bit later. But one of the things I want you to note here, and there was a little bit of activity on the federal level in 2008, but since then there's been nothing. So if we're all wondering why all of a sudden we're talking about this, is because there's been nothing from the federal government, probably unfortunately before I was born. And so that is why we're here today to talk about it. Things have been happening at the state levels. So the federal government does look to the states to administer most, if not all, of their programming. So while the federal government hasn't been as active in new programming, the state level has been, and we'll get into that a little bit too. So to dive a little bit deeper, when we say low to moderate income, and those are the folks that qualify for affordable housing, what does that mean? What does low to moderate income mean? In this chart here, this is based on household, which we can assume here in West Michigan that households generally are dual income. And so I think just something to note, and I'm going to throw a lot of data at you. I can provide the slides later. I'm a banker, so I love numbers, but they just kind of stick with me. But if you look at the columns here, there's AMI, which is the area median income, is what HUD determines is the average household wage. Then if you're earning 80% of that income, you're determined to be moderate income, and then 50% you're deemed low income, 30% you're considered extremely low income. I think that's something to note, that moderate often kind of means middle class, but we're also speaking about affordable housing. So often folks that may consider themselves a middle class would assume that they don't qualify for these types of things, or that they are not in a bracket in which they're being impacted by the cost of living and housing. To kind of drill down one step further and outside of a household, and specifically here in Kent County, what does that look like when you're talking about just one person? So here in Kent County, HUD says that the average median income for a resident here is $66,000 a year, or having a job that pays over $30 an hour. Based on how much you are paid, and how much wages you earn is how HUD can set your maximum rents. And these maximum rents, oh, thank you, are set in a way that you wouldn't be paying more than 30% of your income on housing. If you can look at these rents, so for example, the maximum rent for a one-bedroom apartment of $1,700, they're saying you should be able to afford that by making $60,000 a year. That's also pre-tax numbers, remember. I'm sure many of you in the audience have had family members, friends searching for apartments, houses, you know, over the last several years, especially in a post-COVID environment, and looking kind of at the comparison of how much we are paying our workers and how much they need to be paid in order to just have a roof over their head and afford basic necessities. One of the things I wanted to point out too here on this graph, kind of a large misconception with affordable housing and the stigma of who benefits from it. You will see here, based on this pie chart, the majority of folks that fall in the extremely low income band are in fact in the workforce or they're senior and retired. There's a lot of stigma often that people that qualify for this type of housing may be lazy, may not want to, you know, contribute to a community, but that's not necessarily the case. And you'll see that as we go on is more of, we'll get into that. So in Michigan, we have about 10 million total population. There's about 4.7 million households. So that means each household has approximately 2.1 people. I don't know how you can have 0.1, but right. So again, we're often looking at this figure of there's usually 2 people in a household. Of all of Michigan's households, 28% of those are rentals. Of those 1.3 million people who rent homes, whether they're a home, full home or a single unit, almost half of those are cost burden, and they are spending more than 30% of their income on housing. And that is slightly higher, or I would say concerningly higher than the national average, which is at 41%. That's also not a great number. All of that is said, 38% of all households, regardless if you're owning, renting, what have you, struggle to afford all of these basic necessities. I think that's been something we can see a lot today in an inflationary environment as well. The state of Michigan, we rank 38 out of 40 in the number of people experiencing homelessness here. And we also rank 28 out of 50 for the most expensive housing wage. What is housing wage? Housing wage means livable wage. It means being able to afford shelter, food, healthcare, paying taxes, and transportation. So think of housing wage as what do I need to do to afford a livable wage? Here is some startling statistics. If anything, this is one of my slides that I think I focused the most on. This study is from the National Coalition of Low-Income Housing, and they do a study based on each state individually and nationally. And here in Michigan, if you were to go out and look for a one-bedroom apartment, HUD says to us that you should be able to find one for $900 a month. I will tell you, you're maybe going to find one for $1,500. Even if you did find one for $900 a month, if you are making minimum wage, you have to work 68 hours a week or 1.7 full-time jobs to afford $900 rent. So if that's the case on that rent, what does that look like when someone needs to pay $1,500 a month? They're now working, they don't have those stats, but significantly more than they should, in my opinion. One of the other things I wanted to point out is this year, Grand Rapids, Wyoming district has become the second most expensive housing wage in the state. So that means our cost of living here in the Grand Rapids Metro is the second highest in the entire state. It is, I think last year we were 4th or 5th, so it has increased significantly. And you can see that is still $4 less, or sorry, $4 more than the average for what's afforded to be able to rent a 2-bedroom apartment. One of the other things I wanted to quickly point out on this chart too is minimum wage has increased from last year, that's great, but by 2%. The housing wage increased by 13%. So you're now having people who only got a 2% pay increase, but their costs went up 13%. How are they ever gonna catch up? And they can't in an environment where rents continue to raise, and if they're not capped in any way, there's no way they're ever gonna catch up, be able to create savings for higher education, what have you, those things that are not on the list of basic needs of shelter, health, transportation, and paying taxes, they include that on there. So who all does this impact? And something that I like to say are essential workers. This is a list, and I know it's kind of tiny, of total employment in the state of Michigan and their median hourly wage and the disparity between what they should be paid to afford a 1-bedroom apartment and a 2-bedroom apartment. And again, that's assuming that 1-bedroom apartment's $900. So if you look at these occupations, home health, teaching assistants, our waiters and waitresses, a lot of service industry, nursing assistants, truck drivers, office clerks. I mean, these are the people, these are our peers, right? These are the people we see every day at work. This is where they're falling on the scale of affordability to live here in Grand Rapids. So what are we gonna do about it? It is a big issue. I'm sure you've seen it over and over again. This year, the state of Michigan has adopted a statewide housing plan. It's the first plan we've ever had that has been put into print. It is a 5-year plan. It is a big document. You can Google it. It is online, available to the public. They have target areas, goals, whole slew of stuff. We won't get into it. Happy to talk to you about it if you would like. But outside of the affordability issues, the state of Michigan is also coming across other issues as it relates to home ownership, homelessness, impacting different racial groups. And half of our housing stock is really old, was built prior to 1970. From a sustainability, a efficiency, and just overall integrity of some of our structures, unfortunately, we may get someone into affordable housing, but it might not be quality housing. So are we, there's a balance there. And then, as we see this in new construction of single family homes, there's just construction of new units is way shorter than the demand out there. A lot goes into that construction cost. That's a whole nother, slide of itself. Along this side here, there's a series of goals in which the state is looking to achieve within this 5 years. 75,000 plus housing units, that's a lot. I'm sure you guys have heard of Housing Next data that has said, I think Kent County needs 39,000 units. So this is across the state. There's a lot to work being done. So who's doing it? Like I said before, the federal government pushes down a lot of this work onto the individual states, and every state has an agency that administers all of these various programs, whether it's grants, loans, education, down payment assistance, what have you. Here in Michigan, our agency is the Michigan State Housing Development Authority, or MISHDA. They are the organization here. They were established in 1966. So that was right around the time of Section 8 housing being established, and that looking to a way to support public-private partnerships. That is one of the only ways that we actually, in fact, can put a dent into this crisis. If you'll see, MISHDA is not funded, their operating expenses, the way they pay for the ability to do these programming is not from our state tax revenues. They actually create revenue from the sale of tax exempt and taxable bonds. And so that is how the state of Michigan's affordable housing platform is being funded primarily. And those funding sources is what really drives a lot of the other requirements of who can live in these housing units, how much wage can they support, is really where the financing sources come into play. MISHDA does a lot. They're extremely busy. They also as a government agency, as you can imagine, have those struggles to deal with in a post-COVID world, short-staffed, as always. You know, they're struggling just like any for-profit company is, and they've got quite the mission on their hands. Let me go to this. So at Mercantile, what we are working on doing and what we're helping to do as the state is to partner with MISTA and developers who are using these tools and putting them together in financing packages that allows developers to use the funds in the most efficient way in their communities. We specifically invest in projects that generate tax credits. So that's one of the incentives that MISTA and the federal government offer outside of grants and loans, is they will offer a private investor in exchange for their investment into these projects, a tax credit to reduce their federal tax liability. It's their incentive for saying, hey, we want to support this type of work. So at Mercantile, we're here to help navigate through that complexity. Like at many government programs, they're very complex, hard to figure out. There's teams of experts out there doing this. And we partner with local organizations like Dwelling Place, ICCF, Genesis Nonprofits, Meritas, those types of folks. Those are the developers we're working with to get them construction financing, get them the investment so that they could build you know, new affordable housing or rehab in existing areas. One of the biggest pushes right now too is to provide affordable housing that is age restricted for folks that are 55 and up. A lot of that is not in an assisted living format, but most people in that age bracket, maybe on fixed income, would like to know exactly how much their rent's going to be, and it's not going to necessarily change. And that allows for then the larger single family home housing stock potentially to have more supply in the event that if you have a single elderly person living in an entire home and they would like to be in an affordable quality unit, frees up stock for additional population growth, which we are experiencing rapidly in West Michigan. So something to think about there. MISTA does put set asides each year. They decide, hey, we really want to focus in rural communities. We want to focus in areas that have been historically distressed, or where there's needs to be rehabs, or there's a significant population of disabled folks that need permanent supportive housing. There's also been a push for tribal housing that's newer this year. So there's a lot going on. And again, I know you're reading about a lot of this. Know that there's a lot of folks working on these things. It does take a long time, as you can see from that history. But one of the things I'd love for this group to kind of take away is just the education piece of, again, affordable housing really impacts everybody, because we're talking about what is a livable wage, and we all want a livable wage, and then some, of course. But just to keep that in mind, that, you know, most of us have family or friends that would qualify, and there shouldn't be a stigma to affordable housing. And as you know, these types of projects may enter your communities, hear out the developers and the people who have spent a long time trying to plan these, and try to understand really, okay, what bracket are you helping? Are you helping that severely 30% extremely low income? Or are we helping our middle class moderate? Either way, we're helping somebody, but I think kind of understanding and putting yourself on the same level and knowing that those people are getting a roof over their head makes a huge difference. I also provided this lovely glossary of definitions of all of these words I've spit out at you, and we'll give you the slides too. I think the data for me, the numbers kind of speak a lot, and just kind of understanding, okay, if somebody is being paid less than $15 an hour, can they afford to live in Michigan? Unfortunately, the answer is no, based on the data. So it's rough. It's a hard conversation to have, but just something to keep thinking about. And I'm always here as a resource. And that is my presentation for you guys. I'd love to answer any questions you might have.
Do you deal at all with refugees?
Not specifically. Most of these housing is not transitional, so it's more permanent housing, but there's a lot of organizations that do, and there's a whole subset of funding for those types of facilities.
Thank you for your thoughtful presentation.
Yes.
I work for Cherry Health, and so we
Yes.
have a significant number of our patients who fit into some of the categories you shared. And a huge misnomer is that these are individuals who choose not to work and,
Right.
you know, living off the system and what have you. And there's a huge population of the working poor, individuals who are struggling while still working multiple jobs.
Yes, yeah. And unfortunately, that's the majority. Yes.
I'm a little surprised about that Grand Rapids number. I always thought this was an affordable housing area in the country. And that's implying we're the second highest in Michigan.
In Michigan, yeah, so based off of these, statistical areas, so like when they do certain studies, they lump, what's the word I'm looking for? MSAs together. What's the M for, municipal? Thank you.
It surprised me that. I thought this was more affordable area. It's drifted up over the years.
Yeah, last year, so in 2022's data, I think we were in between 22 and 23. Holland Grand Haven wasn't even in the top 5. I think that was, I think Grand Traverse popped up for a second, actually, that MSA, but it's growing.
There's a difference also, I think, between rental.
Sure, yes, this is specific to rental. I should clarify that.
Well, if we consider what prices have gone up for purchasing even though, I mean, like the house I bought 16 years ago, I could probably sell for twice as much as I bought it for.
Yes.
And it's pushing people out of home ownership as well. And I recently heard a statistic that in the area, if all of the affordable housing projects even move forward over the next 10 years, we still won't meet the need in this community.
Right, and often I get asked, where are all these people coming from? Like, why all of a sudden we just need houses for so many people? What we don't think about often is the people that are just living in situations that are not ideal. And people who are just maybe not in the most intentional housing that fits their life stages. So there's been, again, a lack of a lot of resources. And so this is just one of those pegs in the wheel that we're trying to fix.
I would think too, you look at the types of new businesses or communities in the Grand Rapids area has probably increased that level of wage.
Yeah.
Height in terms of like medical, you've got some new developments there. You've got a lot of other major industries that are not just low wage earners. Those are higher wage earners, and not just automotive factories, which used to be certainly in Detroit and so forth. That's still a strong industry. So if you look at the industries, it's pretty diverse here, Grand Rapids.
Yes, yeah, that does help a lot.
It raises that income.
Very standing right here, but you say about the workforce development housing?
Yeah.
Who does that kind of work?
So by definition, workforce housing is just housing that is close to your job. But a lot of times workforce housing is used as terminology to provide housings for the people in that 80% or higher. So that is, that would be more of your workforce, is generally targeted towards the moderate to high moderate income earners.
So it's fair to say it's a price target as opposed to an initiative in and of itself. Okay, it's not.
I would say there's, what's challenging is in workforce housing and some of the not as deeply subsidized housing. We are, well, effectively subsidizing housing for people who are earning 100 or 120% of the area median income. So if we just think about that for a second, the system has to be fundamentally broken if you're subsidizing people that are the average and above, right? So that's your workforce housing. So is it just a fun name to call it, or is it just housing for the everyday folk, right? So that's where some of the jargon can get mixed up in that.
Doesn't the city or county have a percentage of increase in low income that they're targeting?
Yes.
Uh,
Yes, so we have the Grand Rapids Housing Commission, so they offer vouchers and help make sure that people that are utilizing their services are able to find housing. The city also and county have gotten ARPA dollars and have been putting those specifically into affordable housing trust funds.
New development, so.
That the city does.
Development start, you're in the area, aren't they trying to target those?
Yep.
Certain percentage being low income?
Right, but what low income, moderate, low, or extremely low?
That's a good question.
That's the good question. That would be my question. Cause yes, there's many municipalities, whoever will say, we're gonna set aside of the 1,000 units, 30% have to be affordable. Okay, affordable on what scale?
Standard.
Yes, so that's where my intent of this presentation is that there is a scale, and just because someone says affordable housing, it could mean so much more. So that's my spiel. Yes, thank you.
Very much. Hope you remember us.
I absolutely will.
Have a bug, and we look forward to
Thank
having you
you.
back next year
Yes,
and telling us how it's progressed.
hopefully
Okay,
that would be,
so
look forward to it. Thank you.
thank you very much. And again, please RSVP to the holiday social
You didn't get the
invitation.
staff in here, did we?
Can you look out the door and see if they're out
Yeah,
there?
see if the staff is out there.
Can you check and see if the staff's outside the door? Anybody out there? We wanted to thank them. Thank you all for being here today. It's great to have this turnout. It's great to see you. Okay, so when you leave today, if you see a staff member, please thank them. Okay, again, we are gonna make a presentation to them. A small thank you there for each of them for their service, because they've done a great job. And again, December 16th is the holiday social. December 2nd is holiday shopping. Look forward to seeing you all there. We're adjourned. Happy Thanksgiving.